Welcome to aehelp.com's IELTS test preparation videos. We will now complete a reading passage for the Academic IELTS, which could also be a passage for Section 3 of the General IELTS. The questions will cover yes, no, not given, summary completion, and sentence ending completion. We will take a look at the answer key and talk strategy. Now, let's read along with this native British English speaker. Let's begin.
The London Underground. One of the most notable aspects of London, the Underground, or Tube, is also one of the most utilised by locals and visitors alike. Over 1.3 billion passengers use the London Underground every year. If you have ever visited the city, it is very likely that you have been told to mind the gap. In continuous operation for over 150 years, the London Underground began as just one line run by a private corporation. Today, the system is publicly owned and is comprised of 11 separate lines. The growth and development of the Underground has mirrored London's development as, first, an industrial powerhouse, and second, a financial and tourism centre. Great Britain was the epicentre of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries. Cities like Glasgow, Birmingham and London gave birth to inventions such as the steam engine, which revolutionised transportation and travel. People began to flock to these cities for jobs, opportunity and prosperity. London was the destination of choice for many of these people. In 1800, at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the population of London was less than 1 million people. By 1900, that number would balloon to over 6.5 million people. There were many factors which contributed to this growth, not least of which was improved sanitation. But one factor in particular allowed for the mobility of those people across the ever-expanding city, the construction and development of the London Underground. The first line was constructed in 1863. Over the next 50 years, many more lines would be added, resulting in the virtual blanketing of central London by the start of the First World War. Through the interwar period and mid-20th century, the focus for the subway developers was extending the network to the suburbs of London, where an increasing number of Londoners were now residing. Interestingly, it wasn't until 1933 that the developers of the network unified into a single governing body. Until that time, there were a host of private companies competing for contracts, land, and customers. Today, the London Underground is owned and operated by the London Transport Authority, Transport for London. Perhaps the most recognisable symbol of the London Underground is the tube map, designed in 1931 by Underground employee Harry Beck. With its many colourful lines and intricate details, the tube map is not only useful, but aesthetically pleasing as well. Indeed, a print copy of the tube map is a popular souvenir for tourists to put on their walls back home. That it is artful is, however, only part of its appeal. The tube map is incredibly useful. Just a moment spent looking at the map can help you determine how to get from any point in London to any other point. Beck was able to accomplish this by realising that the map did not need to exactly match the reality of the tube geography. For instance, a line may go through all sorts of turns through its route, yet on the map it is represented as a straight line. This simplification worried the Underground management in 1931, but soon enough the tube map became a sensation, both for its usefulness and its elegant design. Today, the tube is used more than ever, and London continues to grow. With the centre of London becoming a financial hub over the past 50 years, more and more jobs have been created in the English capital. While this has in some sense hollowed out the core of London, it has also highlighted the need for more lines to service the ever-increasing number of London suburbs. Additionally, tourism to London has never been higher. Well over 30 million people visited the city in 2015, each of whom, undoubtedly at some point, used the venerable London Underground.
Before we check the answer key, I want to give you some more help to get those high band scores the next time you sit the IELTS exam. Simply go to our website, aehelp.com, join our premium IELTS package, and use the code XR9T for a 25% discount to get access to all of our videos, practice exams, and interactive course. Simply click the link in the video description. Now, let's check our answers and then talk a bit more strategy. Now that we've read the passage, let's answer the questions. Did you visualize the passage? Did you see the development of the London Underground? Did you see Beck's colorful map? If not, make sure to practice this for the next time. You should be reading a passage like this within 8 to 10 minutes, leaving 10 to 12 minutes to answer the questions. Let's answer these questions, look at the answer keys, and then I will give you specific strategies for these types of questions. Let's answer the questions now. How did you do? Did you get all the answers correct? If not, don't worry. I'm here to help you. Yes, no, not given questions, also called true, false, not given questions, are not that bad as long as you know the right steps. The first step is to figure out whether or not the information is important for the topic of the passage. If it is, then it's given. If not, then it's not given. Question 1 states that over 1 million people use the London Underground each year. Is it important to know how many passengers use the London subway? Of course it is. That is the topic of this passage, the London Underground, so it must be given. Now, I need to figure out whether or not it's true. Use logic and pay attention to detail. Of course, more than 1 million people use the London Underground each year. In fact, according to the passage, it's over 1 billion people. And 1 billion is certainly much more than 1 million. So the answer here is yes. Question number 4 states that the population of London ballooned by a factor of 6 during the 20th century. Is it important to know the population growth of London for this topic? Definitely, because that's the reason that London developed the London Underground. Is it true? Of course it is. When we pay attention to the details, the passage says that the population of London grew from 1 million to 6.5 million during the 1800s. That's definitely a factor of 6. So we indicate yes, and we move on. Now, let's talk about summary completion. For summary completion questions, the most important strategy to implement is paraphrasing. That means recognizing different ways that the same information can be stated. Look at question 6. The correct answer is 5 decades. However, in the passage, this reads as 50 years. Of course, the word decades means 10 years. So that's why the correct answer is 5. For question 9, the correct answer is transport authority. So the question reads looked after by. However, in the passage, the information is owned and operated. Now, you need to know that owned and operated has the same meaning in this context as the phrasal verb looked after. This is why when you're getting ready for the IELTS exam at home, it's really important to practice paraphrasing. Learn different ways to express the same ideas. Now, let's take a look at sentence ending type questions. Sentence ending type questions are kind of multiple choice. And the biggest mistake that candidates make is they start searching for the right answer from the choices before thinking on their own. This is not a good idea because oftentimes a couple of choices are very similar and it's easy to get confused. So the correct strategy is always to try and finish the sentence on your own first based on what you have read. Take a look at question 11. This question states that the map is useful because it allows a person to. Now, if I'm looking at the answer choices, I might get confused. However, if I finish this on my own, thinking that it allows a person to go anywhere in London from A to B, then I will make the correct choice, which is choice A. This is also true for question 12. Question 12 starts by stating that Beck's key insight was. Now, if I answer this on my own, based on my reading, I remember that his key insight was that the map did not need to match the exact geography of London. So bends and curves could be drawn as straight lines. And once I realize this, I will find the correct answer, which is the letter F. Remember, most importantly, for multiple choice questions, including finding sentence endings, you have to answer on your own first and then find the closest match. Good luck the next time you sit your IELTS exam. For more video lessons like this, as well as original practice exams, a fully interactive course, visit and join our premium IELTS package at aehelp.com and use the code XR9T for that 25% discount. Simply click the link in the video description. Begin learning for success today. Subscribe to our channel. Click over here. Watch another video. Click right up here. And click our IELTS Hero to join our premium package and get access to all of our videos, practice exams, and a fully interactive course.